Welcome to this short video about preparing to talk with a student you suspect of academic dishonesty. Your presenters today are Elana Geller and I'm Susan Benz, and we work at the University Learning Centre at the University of Saskatchewan and at the Gwenna Moss Centre for Teaching Effectiveness at the University of Saskatchewan. We're sharing today a shortened version of a workshop that we have recently led, and we're wanting just to present the high points of the workshop. This is an important topic for faculty because we understand through anecdotes in our work and also through research that faculty find it very uncomfortable approaching students about academic dishonesty and find it difficult in some circumstances. And so today's short talk is really about how to prepare yourself for talking with students about your suspicions.
So briefly, why do students cheat? Some of the reasons why students cheat are expected, like to improve their grades. So if they want to get into specific programs, they might think that they need specific grade point averages, so they cheat. They think they have to cheat. Sometimes they do it to improve efficiency, so they think it would be easier to cheat than study. To cope with pressure. There are many pressures that students face, whether they be family pressures, financial pressures, or academic pressures. Hypothetically, they might need a specific grade in a specific course to advance. If they think that they can't do that, they might cheat. They might cheat to defy authority. So they might see it as a way to get back at somebody, get back at an instructor for whatever perceived slight. They may actually assess the odds and think that this is a safe gamble. There might be something going on in their life. They might know people who cheat and think that those people do quite well. And so if those people cheat, why shouldn't they? And that they might either lack an understanding of the actual material or have a perceived lack of understanding of the material and think this is the only way they can advance. So, some of the things that one might do to get prepared to talk with the student is understand where you're coming from. So, what am I committed to with respect to the student learning? These are things that you should think about, just to know before you go into that conversation what your commitments are. What are you committed to with regard to fair assessment? What are you committed to with respect to your own perception on academic integrity at the university and in your field? And how can I express my commitments explicitly and clearly, especially with regard to academic integrity?
Yes. So, when students, I think, are invited in to a conversation with their professor or their TA or their instructor, they may not know what the reason is that you're asking them in, or they may. And it's important to be really clear with the student about what the purpose is of the conversation. And so you need to be clear yourself about why you're asking the student in. And what are you trying to accomplish by having a conversation with them? What choice of words would make that most clear? So whether that means preparing a script in advance or just a bit of practice, if that makes sense to you, that can be helpful. And also being clear yourself and to the student about why you would engage in a conversation about suspicions of academic dishonesty. So why would you want to have a conversation like this as a committed teacher? And then, of course, it's important to sort out what are the facts of the situation that you've asked the student in for. So what exactly were the sequence of events that occurred from your perspective, and what are the interpretations you've made of what you've observed? And then to ask the student, so what's your response to my interpretation? What's your version of events? How did you, as a student, approach the task? What did you expect would happen as a result of that approach? And what did you think the rules were for this assignment? So really part of the conversation that's very exploratory about what what the facts are. If you can agree on what happened, the student and the teacher, having a plan then about, well, what's the logical next step then in terms of your conversation. Or if you see different facts at play, you have different versions of events, then what? Another important aspect to be prepared for is what will you do and how will you respond if the student implicates others in the events in question?
Some things to be prepared for are all the possibilities. So considering what might happen, considering various situations is really important, and thinking about how you'd respond to them. So certain things like what contributed to the situation, will the student's stated intention or claims of ignorance matter to me? How will I respond to what the student says, thinking about the whole gamut of possible responses? Are there any situations that might make me feel differently about the situation? And recognizing some of your own emotions as well when going into that situation. How am I feeling? How am I feeling toward the student, towards the situation? Am I feeling very angry because of the academic dishonesty without regard to the student or without understanding where the student came from? How am I going to respond if the student apologizes and seems sincere? How would I respond if the student got angry and very defensive? What happens if she or he starts crying? Will I act differently? How would I elicit a conversation if the student is quiet? If the student talks to me about very sensitive situation or highly personal information, what will I do with that information? Should I be prepared, or will I be prepared to close the conversation if I feel that it needs to be closed for whatever reason? These reasons can be the conversation is going nowhere, it's getting heated, I'm getting too angry or upset, the student's getting too angry or upset, and it just is not progressing. Am I prepared to connect the student with various resources on campus? Do I know those resources? Do I know how to refer the student to those resources? These are all very important things to think about beforehand, just considering all the possibilities of what might occur in that conversation.
Then moving on to questions of responsibility or culpability. I mean, is the student responsible? Will you act according to our university's policy, where there are informal actions that can be taken and also formal actions? And people watching this video from other campuses should be aware of their own policies at their university or in their programs. So what will I say if the student takes responsibility for the act in question? Is this serious enough in my mind to take this on to a formal next step, or can it be dealt with within my own process as a teacher? And what will I say if the student denies responsibility and I disagree with that denial? Then what? Is it serious enough to proceed to the formal possibilities, or will I just dismiss it? And what will I do if I think, the student made a mistake, it was inadvertent, it was an ignorance that led to this mistake, then what? So these are important when you actually get to a conclusion of the conversation, understanding what you'll do with the responsibility that the student holds.
Considering next steps at the end of that conversation as well, or how you're going to end that conversation, is very important as well. And considering how you're going to present the policies, the processes at the university, without using those policies as coercion is really important. Giving the student the knowledge without making the student think that, well, if I don't take this kind of step, say I'm at the University of Saskatchewan, if I don't take the informal process or accept the informal process, then it'll be much worse. How do you present that without it being coercive? And also considering how you will come back to the conversation if you do have to cut your conversation short. How you will get back to that conversation, and how you will end that conversation at that time and indicate that there will be a conversation in the future. And these are very important things to consider before going into the conversation.
One of the things we added in our full workshop is that it can be beneficial to send a follow-up email or message to the student summarizing the conversation you've had and the next steps, and to take care in composing that. In the case that to make it clear to the student is the most important reason, but also in the case that you enter into formal proceedings. So we hope that's helpful to teachers and faculty members who are watching this video. Thanks.
Thank you.